Okay, beautiful people, one and all. Thank you, Alan, for your thumb there. Welcome back after a vast break to our Future Leader Community calls. This is call number 77. It is July the 26th, 2022. Myself and Richard and some beautiful souls here. Welcome, everybody. Looks like everyone here has been on our calls before. We do have Rebecca. Give us a thumbs up, Rebecca, if you're all cool. Is this your first call? Yeah. Okay. Well, so that you know, for anyone else that's on these calls as well, on our FLT calls, we do try and keep them really free flow. So if Rebecca, if you came from the courses, you might be used to a bit more static delivery. I'm a big fan in. I am a big fan in just community chit chat. Like, we don't get a community without conversations. So everyone is free to fully unmute themselves if the environment you're in is a child, dog, and horn free. If it's not, I kindly ask you to stay muted, of course. But everyone is free to. This is not a me and Richard talking show. I would love it as ever if we can just go into good conversation. So we do have golden threads throughout all of this. But I normally begin by saying we started these calls because myself and Richard had a shared, not even vision, belief, let's say, that the institutions and systems within which we have around the world just weren't sufficient for what we were dealing with, that there was too much going on and there was a lot of wobbling and popping and quacking. And when we first discovered Bitcoin, which led us onto blockchain, which led us to understand distribution, decentralized ledgers, decentralization, all of these things, it sparked something in us. And we really do believe that not only was what we're going through one of the greatest transformations and transferences of wealth that we've ever seen, but also the greatest transference in systems, in power, in control, in sovereignty, and the ability for humans to have a greater say within society. And we felt that blockchains and Bitcoin and decentralization could play a big part in this. And it's not necessarily that it is the future. As someone once said to me, how do you know it's the one? I said, I don't. I said, but given my other options, I choose to plant my feet firmly in this space. And we started these calls to just open up the space to have a discussion. And we've been doing them for well over, probably nearly touching 2 years now. We don't charge. We open them up fully. Our course was donation based, but we did that because we believe in this idea of the gift economy, where the user at the other end determines the value. But at the end of the day, me and Richard said, so long as we enjoy these calls and they're fun, and so long as the people that are on the calls are enjoying them and we're actually having dialogue and feeling like we're part of something, we're happy to keep going. And I'm proud to say that after a couple of years, we're still here. So really appreciate the patience that people have had whilst we've been delivering this course for the last few months. And it's nice to get back to these. So without further ado, what I do want to just say, Rebecca, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you are a new person. And I would love to say hi, because I don't think I've seen you on the calls. You gave us a thumbs up earlier. If you would kindly, so that me and Richard know where you kind of sit, where are you at on your crypto journey, if you don't mind?
Where am I at in my crypto journey? Well,
answer that however you wish. I know it's an arbitrary answer.
Yeah, it's that's kind of a big question. Well, I started learning about crypto about probably almost 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. And not to brag, but I'm a quick study, so I've learned fairly quickly. And then I feel like I know quite a lot more than the general public, but then when I get into crypto spaces, I sometimes feel like I know nothing. So I'm like a sponge, just learning it all. Like yesterday I was having a conversation about a bunch of new coins coming out from I have some friends who are blockchain developers. I've got lots of contacts in the right space of like really good friends. So being able to have these open, free conversations is really key, I think, to us being the pioneers. And so I feel like I'm a pioneer in the space. Yeah, I'm a risk taker, so I've lost money in a few minutes as I've learned to trade. So I've been doing some of my own manual trading on Forex, and I don't want to do that. No, not for me. I think Daniel and I, we've talked before about music and other things like that.
Oh, now I know which Rebecca you are.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I'm a Rebecca that went to Panama.
Yes.
And was living in Mexico when you were down there too. So yeah, I'm in that space. I really believe in wealth redistribution amongst many. I'm a humanitarian, so I've done lots of volunteer work in Africa, and being able to put more money into those people's hands is why I believe in this space, and why I believe that we have to work together to make the planet a better place and give more people opportunity. So that's my why. Like, that's why I want to be in this space, because I think that when good people have more money, we can do more things with it, and we can empower others to do, to make their dreams a reality. Because I'm a business coach, so I can get kind of coachy, but I just think that it shouldn't just be about dreaming, but actually making those dreams reality. And, having wealth and health going hand in hand are really what's going to drive things forward. Yeah. So
Amen, sister.
I'm
Dreams and ideas are fantastic, and I do think we need them, but without, someone once said, I've got an idea. Well, it's not worth anything. It's just an idea. We have to turn something into some form of reality in order to gain something from it, I suppose. So I'm totally with you there. Yes. There we go. Cool. Well, Rebecca, it is wonderful to have you with it. It's nice that I know who you are now. Yes, we have shared some good conversations. And I always appreciate the patience, because you're one of the people I've been the least responsive to. And I will name that because you're actually one of the people that I want to be the most responsive to, because I don't speak to many people who I know that have got the passion that you have shared privately with me. So it's really good to see you on one of these calls as well. So what we wanted to do, me, which was speaking before, and what we wanted to kind of cover was, we thought, well, since we haven't done these for a while, it would be, I suppose, if there were some white elephants in the room, a lot's changed since September last year when we kind of did the last proper series. A lot's changed. And so the two big things that have been the biggest catalyst that we think bring things up is around Luna and around Celsius. Celsius being the bigger one, because there's still a lot of people. I met a guy yesterday who still had no idea it was even going through reorganization and insolvency, and that was a very heavy dinner for that person, because all 100% of their crypto assets are in Celsius, and they had no idea. And that was a very sobering moment. So I think there's a bit of confusion, and I fly some of this as well, in the sense that I've kind of kept my head out of it, waiting for people way more invested to work out what's going on. And I've heard recently there's forms and things to fill out. So I think it'd be good to discuss these, see other people's experiences of what you may have been the brunt of. And then we can kind of move on a little bit. We thought it'd be good we thought that brings up this conversation around the fallbacks of centralization, where decentralization fits into it, but then what happened to Luna, because Luna was decentralized. So that's a thread we have. We have until past, so we got what, an hour 15 minutes ish, an hour, let's say an hour 10, and then we can wrap it up at the end. So is there anyone on the call at the minute who felt the brunt of what has occurred over the last 6 months, particularly sparked since Luna had its episode? I'd love to just hear people's takes. What happened to you? Maybe how you dealt with it. It's cool if it turns into a little bit of therapy session, because without us being able to talk about these things, we can definitely drive ourselves crazy. Depends what sort of support and mechanisms you've got. So anybody have any sharing experiences that they had in and around Luna and Celsius, all these that you want to just put into the group? You can start with, hi, my name's Daniel. I'm a crypto crash receiver, if you wish as well. Only saying that as a joke. So anybody want to share what has gone on for you? Unmute yourself, kick it off. I can stay silent for a long time, by the way.
Rod's got a finger up.
Yeah, I'll kick off. Unfortunately, it's sheltered from both Luna and Celsius, but I would say that my portfolio generally is down about 40 to 45%. But to me, that was not expected, and I'm not massively bothered, because I'm in a fortunate enough position to not have to worry too much about money, and I never invest anything that I can't afford to lose anyway. So I'm not too uncomfortable about the situation, and I've been taking advantage of the crash and buying BTC and ETH. So that's kind of where I am, sort of neutral about it at the moment.
I understand that. So when you said you were sheltered from it, was that because at the time you weren't holding, I suppose, you're holding mainly major ones and you're still only buying major ones?
Yes and no. I've got a small amount of Ripple and Sol, and I've got quite a lot of DOT and ADA. And now that ETH and Bitcoin are cheap or cheaper, I'm buying into them and staying away from slightly more risky.
Yeah, so you've been stacked up on, I suppose, the stronger layer one protocols. Would you say your portfolio, though, still hedged more towards BTC and ETH, or no?
No, okay. It's more DOT and ADA.
Interesting. Okay, cool. And you're only down about 45%. That's not bad.
Yeah,
not bad at all.
I've been lucky. I've been doing sort of my version of DCA, which is just look at it once a week, and if it looks okay, buy some. Yeah,
no, that's cool. So just one thing I always used to say on these calls, obviously we do record them for the community. They're not publicly listed on YouTube, but they may be at some point in the future. So I've had a couple of people who didn't want to share because it's recorded. So if anyone feels that in any single way, if you want to just write something to me, what your experience was for anything or any comments, then if you send them on a DM or if you make it in the message, I won't I won't share any names or anything like that. So I just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be able to share without releasing personal information, I suppose. So Rod, thank you very much for that. I can at least say from I share from my experience that I was probably in the same ones you were in, majoritively layer ones, and I obviously took a hit. But I decided when everything was going through what it was going through to exit pretty much out of almost everything. Even though that was difficult at times, I kind of took the view, I was thinking about recovery. The last time this happened, how much all the layer ones totally changed around. I think one or two of what you just shared, DOT, Sol, ADA, not Sol, ADA, I'm missing one. Whatever the other one was, not Cardano, whatever those top 4 layer ones are, I think at least 1 or 2 will definitely make it through. But my concern is, I suppose, not knowing those. So I went down a route of preservation more than anything else. And on one evening, I moved a lot into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I held a lot in USDC, which I'm still holding today. And that view was because it allowed me to sleep at night more than checking, because I kind of knew that at least for Bitcoin and Ethereum, my belief is that these would hold their own much better than everything else. But I think second to that is these, certainly from my point of view, these strong layer 1 protocols. So really interesting to hear that, Rod. Thank you very much. I'm curious to get Richard in. I've not heard from him yet so far. I know that you had plenty of lengthy calls over this last winter period. What's your takes on it, and what did you do?
I didn't change a lot of my positions because I'm more heavily weighted in Bitcoin and Ethereum anyway. So, and I've got a lot of Cardano, XRP, things like that. So, which I've been holding on for a long time. I think what I was doing, the thing that affected me most, I mean, I think I got out of Celsius. What I didn't like about Celsius, if we talk about the company, I guess, is that I originally thought that, and this will probably lead us quite nicely onto the conversation around centralization and things like that, really. But I thought originally when Celsius came along, that it came from a good place, had a really good ethos about the company, and the top level C-suite of individuals that run the company were super transparent, and they were talking about all the things they were doing. And I think, given the time space we were in then, in terms of where we were in the kind of crypto cycle and what people knew, you forget how quickly things move in crypto. And but anyway, so that space in time, I had quite a big chunk in Celsius earning, a mix of trying to build up my Bitcoin and Ethereum portfolio, as well as trying to speculate on the Cell token as well. And I don't know if you remember, Dan, but I think it was even before I left here, and I remember there's some news came out that I can't remember if it was the technology officer or the PR. I've got a feeling it was something ridiculous like the security officer or something like that. And it was a young girl, and there was some,
she was the finance and partnerships or something like that. It was.
Yeah,
I find it. Carry on.
But it turned out she was a porn star. Now I shouldn't hold that, against anyone about what they do or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of thinking a big new, company in finance is pushing that thing. Kind of like, I'm thinking, is that a good choice? So it's kind of like started waving a few red flags for me. And then more stuff started coming out about Alex Mashinsky himself. And I think probably it must have been, in the end, it must have been around about October or November last year. I remember sharing some of my just musings in the group. And so I pulled out of Celsius, pulled everything out and moved it all into cold storage. So I wasn't earning. So I sort of look back at that, and porn stars are people too. Yeah. So I look back at that and I kind of think, well, that's a kind of lucky escape. But it brings me on to my my thing that I always talk about, which is like, I think when you're looking at all coins in the market, and I think apart from Bitcoin, when people sort of used to ask us, what is an altcoin? And I kind of like try and use a really binary, simple way of explaining it for people that are starting to invest in it before we get into, before they get into the deeply what an altcoin is and everything. It's like, to me, it was like the way I thought about it was kind of like buying stocks and shares. So you buy into an altcoin, and you're buying into it does different things and has different functions, but you're buying into a company, because all these other altcoins, essentially, they are just companies. And we wrap this kind of word of blockchain around everything like it's this really like immutable system that it can't be uncrackable, and it's the future and everything else that. But I always said, like, these things are still companies, and they're still fallible to they're still fallible in terms of the companies, because there's people behind them. And so I suppose that was a cautionary tale, given what's happened since, is that I kind of like my main thing was looking at the people and the integrity of the people and the things they did, the things I kind of expect and the values I kind of held up to it. And so I escaped Celsius. But on the flip side, what I did do was move quite a lot of that into, having done my due diligence, into UST. I didn't go into Terra. I had quite a bit of Luna, unfortunately. But I did end up staking my UST on Anchor and earning that sweet 19% for quite a while. But I was in the middle of doing whatever I was doing, and unfortunately, missed the memo on when everything sort of crashed and lost it, and basically was just not in a very good place, watching UST sort of lose its peg, and then which, for people that don't know, it's losing it. It was supposed to be pegged to the dollar, so one UST for $1, and at one point I think it got down to something ridiculous, like when I was looking at it, like 45 cents, and it retraced back up to about 80 something, and that's when I just decided just take a loss and just get out.
Well,
but I managed to time that okay, but I still lost 15%, and it was a decent amount, which kind of hurt. And of course I lost all my Luna as well, so that's all gone. They did do that airdrop for Luna C, is it? But I just sold that as soon as I got it. As soon as it prompted, I just got rid of it. So
you remember, you haven't received all the Luna C. They're doing the airdrop over the next 2 years.
No, yeah, I know.
Like
but
that.
what I did, I kind of I don't want anything more to do with it. But I think the point being is that, again, you've got this idea and this notion that all these things are infallible and the blockchain, and everyone thinks they're wonderful when everything's going right. But I think for me, more than anything else, like, integrity in this space is just so key. It's the biggest thing, and really looking at the people, their track record. In some ways, isn't enough. You've just got to keep, you know, if you're going to make investments in these things, I think looking at the people is so key, because they aren't, as we'll come on to, decentralized in the same way that I thought, you know, Terra and Luna was decentralized. But, you know, we can talk about what happened with Terra and Luna in terms of how it ended up, and it ended up not being decentralized because of the way the community and the voting mechanism was managed, to my understanding anyway. So,
but
so that was my...
even on that point though, it's like this idea, you know, when you said you were asleep, you missed the memo on what was occurring with Luna and everything. I think that there's so many things that, let's say there's levels of due diligence, and at the surface level of Luna and everything's going on, you're like, this is cool, this is brilliant, it's buzzword, and everything looks good. So then you kind of think, oh, I can sleep. It's in something that's not very shakable. And it's only when stuff like this happens that we then start to look deeper. Like you just said, you find out it's not got the right voting protocol, this or that. And for the average Joe, the average crypto Joe, I don't think people go to that level to understand it, because you don't ask the questions that you don't know you need to ask. And this stuff's so new that even in Rebecca's case, where she's deep diving into it, and I remember when I first went into it, like I couldn't consume enough. 6 years in, I'm still consuming the same amount of information. It's like an endless, bottomless bucket, because they're inventing the depth as we're going. And it's like it never ceases to end. And I did someone the other day, they said, what's safe? And I said, honestly, right now, the only thing for me that's safe is buying Bitcoin and holding it in a decentralized wallet, in a cold store wallet, or any offline wallet where you have the seed phrase somewhere safe. Other than that, if you're not going to pay attention to stuff or keep researching, I said, it has a question mark on it. That's how I feel it's got to.
And I think the fact that's happening in the markets at the moment, there's so many other macro factors. The macro factors are the biggest thing, I think, now going to affect the crypto market. And it's shaking out the bad actors, it's shaking out the protocols that aren't strong enough, you know, all the things that's going to fall to the ground. You're going to be left with things that have got integrity about them, that are really, really, really doing something, and have got good people with good intentions behind them. Because a lot of anything that's built on slightly shaky foundations, just even if it's well intentioned, isn't gonna last this next 12 months really. So, and again, it's the integrity, I think, is the thing, and the people, for me, that's one of the most important things. But you can't always see that. That's the thing. That's the thing. So.
Yeah, I've wrote down integrity is the key there as well, because I think that really, is the key at the minute. So I want to come around to someone else. Rod will come to your question in a minute. I just want to take anyone else's view of what their experience has been. If anyone's received any particular pain. Is anyone still in Celsius? I know that I am. When me and Richard had our calls, I exited, but I had a couple of lawns in there. And me and him at the time, Richard's like, what would happen if Celsius went bust? What would happen to the lawns? And I went, I don't know. And I had a few opportunities. This is my greed sharing, where things are really good. And me and my partner both agreed that we could exit a small bit and clear them down and get the rest of the Bitcoin out. And we chose not to. That's one of my worser decisions. So we're still not too sure what will happen with that. But I'm still in Celsius, which is why I'm still semi-invested in trying to work out what's going on with it. Is anyone else here in Celsius? You'd like to share? If you put your hand up a little bit. Okay.
I was about to go into Celsius. When I was in Mexico, and I was about like setting up my things, and then everything went, I was like, whoa, okay, not setting that up.
Yeah, well, that's good. At least you're not. I've had a few friends. I had a message last week of someone going, I forgot, I've not finished off Celsius. Can you remind me what to do? And I just replied, don't do anything. And I went, it's crashed. And he went, what? And I went, I'll explain later. So there's a lot of luck from that point of view. Ollie, you've unmuted yourself. You got a pleasure or a pain story?
No, pleasure. I got out on the Saturday. My phone had broken, so I couldn't get my Authy up and running, and managed to get my phone back and do it on the Saturday before it all closed on the Sunday. So literally, I got like probably 75% of my portfolio out on Celsius at the time, so got all that out. I didn't get my cell tokens out, so I've got a good few grand of cell tokens just sitting there, but it is what it is, and we'll see how that's going to pan out. So yeah, super lucky.
Well done. Was that because we did a big push in the FLT group to remind people to get stuff out? Because on that day, quite a few people did, but some people, the Celsius, obviously they passed a certain time and it said completed or it said approved, but then the next day it didn't land, they went back into Celsius and had been rejected or cancelled or something like that. Yeah, so
it was Richard, wherever he is. I was with Richard at the time in Ecuador. So yeah, it was really useful.
I kept coming down to breakfast and saying, you might want to get your stuff out of Celsius. Not telling you what to do here, but you know, you want to think about it.
Which is lucky. But yeah, no exposure to Luna, which was good. Managed to avoid that one. But managed to just move everything onto cold storage, which is good to have. And I'd done it before, had all the seed phrases set up and everything. Not all the addresses like cleared.
All the
whitelist, yeah, so everything was kind of straightforward enough. But not having my phone was a bit, not ideal.
Well, that's really good to hear. I'm really happy about that. So if let's just have a see. If people are happy to, and if you wanted to do it in the chat, that's fine. Who is using a cold store? And if you don't know what a cold store is, message put in the chat as well. Yes. Or nod your head if you're not. Who's not using a cold store? One. Okay. Jack, do you want to put us a message? I want to have a see as well. I'm missing. There's someone else that hasn't. I'm trying not to name people because we've got quite a few, not many on this call, so it's easy to be identified. But at least one isn't. Okay, Tim, do you know what a cold store is? Yeah. Okay. Cool. If you're happy to unmute yourself, and this isn't not being an asshole, but why aren't you using one?
I just haven't got around to doing it yet. It's the next thing on the agenda. I can certainly see the value in it, more so now than ever. So.
Are you using hot wallets, like software wallets at all?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So at least they're in, because I think this is the thing, like it is a bit of a jump with the cold stores, but at the very least, you know, having a clean device or a dumb device or a bricked device or something and using a hot wallet is, in my opinion, still substantially halfway along. Because like you said, it's been on your list for ages. On my list for ages was clearing down some of the exchanges that I was semi-using, but the reality is I wasn't. And the rule is if it's on an exchange, it should be doing something, and if it's not, get it off.
Can I ask a question? I'm trying to take everything off exchanges, but I was researching the Trezor cold wallet this week. Would I be correct in my point of view, or my view of it is that it's just the keys that are stored on the Trezor, and it can actually interact with some of the hot wallets, but it still just sits on the blockchain. Is that where your assets sit? Is that correct?
They'll always be on the blockchain.
Yeah. Okay.
All the codes, all the wallet does, cold or hot, holds the keys. Private keys can be converted into public keys, which derive addresses. But everything's about the key, so it just holds them, and that's it. But really, what it's holding, the key, your seed phrase, turns into a lot of numbers, which is what a seed phrase really is, a massive, huge, long number, and from that, addresses get generated, and the keys for those addresses are in the code store, so that when you're on a computer trying to send something, it says, I need you to sign this transaction with your key. And at that point, your code store will say, something is asking me to sign this transaction. Do you approve it? So you need the device to approve the transaction.
Okay, so it's like an authenticator.
Do you know what? In a way, yeah.
Okay.
We need simple ways of explaining stuff sometimes. That's the simplest way. And if there's no real, I mean, I'd love to get people's views here of ledgers versus Trezors, but I have a friend who in the end bought a ledger purely because he's like, I don't need to spend $250, on something. I don't need a touch screen or anything like that. They are a bit more money, the Trezors. Trezors do connect to things like Exodus. Someone in the chat here has said, I'm not sure if mine's set up correctly, but Exodus asks for it. So I would say that sounds correct, but there is dedicated software for yours. You don't have to use Exodus, but I know that a few people on here prefer that. And I want to give a shout out to whoever's said here, I don't have enough of my portfolio yet to buy a cold store wallet or anything like that, which I totally understand that, but I would definitely at least look at hot wallets, because at least then, even if you've got a couple of $100 worth of Bitcoin to your name and that's it, you put it in a hot wallet, at least you can sleep knowing every exchange can crash and it's safe. I think that's what crypto is certainly showing me at the minute, is where is relative safety.
I think as well, it's just interesting that everyone, I met a friend last night I've not seen for a year because I've been away, and I mean, he's had crypto almost as long as I had, but he's just let it left on Coinbase. And I've been throwing through all these different things about you need to get it earning for you and all these different things. But he's finally just bought a ledger, like literally now, but he still hasn't moved it, because there's the technical. It's not technical. I'm sure if everyone's used it, it's not technical, but it's like anyone that's used a cold wallet for the first time, when you first move it there, man, it's a scary thing, right? It's like, if you're not, well, if it's any decent amount of money and you move it there and it means something to you, it's quite a big leap in order to move it in the first place. And so there's the technical aspect, being scared of it, and there's just the upskilling in terms of understanding how it works, what it means. Because a lot of people will have the device and think, oh, my crypto is now on this device that I've got, yeah. So there's a big kind of like learning curve in terms of understanding what this actually is and what part of it is actually super important. And pimping out the course that we did, we made a vector kind of diagram that kind of really kind of thought about why you were doing things, why you wanted to create, why you were going to hold certain coins, why you were doing what you were doing, all these different things, and trying to create some sort of rationale around risk, reward, and time and energy, and how you want to employ those things in terms of what crypto means to you, basically. And I think it speaks to that, is kind of like you have to move out of the comfort zone and put more energy into something if you want to reduce your risk and increase your reward, or whichever vector is important to you. So I think it really speaks to that, because people put stuff off so much, and it's, crypto moves fast. You kind of want to move fast with it, but when it comes to things like security and whatnot, it's like, or making certain moves and really thinking about things, it becomes more difficult for people in some ways.
Yeah, and I want to on that. We've talked about this a lot, and it's this idea of convenience. I'm having a little side conversation with someone, and it's around one of their reasons for not using a cold store is around ultimately convenience. It's easier for me on an exchange, which I have you can't disagree with that. Me and Richard uses the word sovereignty all the time, and as soon as you start going down this pathway of sovereignty, you're like, ultimately, sovereignty is inconvenient. So is privacy. So is security. And using a cold store is inconvenient when in comparison to something like Binance and your big any exchange really. And I think we're, as a society, so used to, I'm not going to say addicted, we're so used to convenience that we don't see it. We just think it's normal. But what we do see is inconvenience. I'm going to come to Oliver in a minute as well, because he's got his hand up. So I just want to, and no one can say you're wrong and I'm right or he's right or she's right or anything like that, because it is such a personal choice. And I think the most important thing is at least having awareness of it, because one thing me and Richard have said for a long time is we never want to, the worst thing for us is waking up, is saying something in the group all the time, like the Celsius thing, and then it happens, and then lots of people going, I didn't do it because I didn't have the time, or I didn't think it would happen, or I enjoyed it being on Voyager, the latest exchange that went bust. So I think it's just, at least if we can own where we're at and what we're doing, then when something occurs, at least we can have a great responsibility for it. But the reason this person's using an exchange anyway is they're using a trading bot. They're using Pionex. I'm familiar with that. And so at least in that instance, someone has their money on an exchange for a dedicated reason. I've not seen a crypto bot yet. I use a lot of trading bots that can work on a DEX, a decentralized exchange with money in a cold store. I don't even know how that would be even possible to do, like technically. So at least it has a reason for it. So thank you for sharing that as well. Oliver, what's your two sats?
Yeah, so the reason I held back from using my cold storage was because I was traveling. So I was like, well, do I really want it to be on this little thing that I literally physically need to look after? But that was interesting, realizing that actually, you know, it's not actually the little physical device. If I lose my actual piece of plastic, I just need to buy the same version of the item.
No, you don't.
As I've got the code.
No, you don't. You just need anything that will accept your seed phrase.
Yeah.
Which is any cold store, any hot wallet, any online wallet. Of course, there's different security threats putting your seed phrase on an online wallet and stuff like that. But what you really need to protect is the seed phrase, that 24 words. Any device will work.
That was a useful learning, because that was the thing I was shit scared about. Like literally just having that piece of plastic in my tech bag or in my rucksack, and then that just going because shit happens. So actually, when I realized that it wasn't the piece of plastic, it was the seed phrase that I needed to look after. That kind of changed my mind again, thinking, oh, actually, you know, this is possible. I just need to keep that seed phrase stored in a convenient way. And yes, it means that I might be inconvenienced to, you know, if you can't always find a place to buy them, but you could always set yourself up on a hot wallet or whatever.
Yeah, it depends how much access you need to it. If you did lose it, well, again, as long as you've got your seed phrase, you can deal with it later on. But again, it depends what you're holding and how fast you need access to it. But it's good to have that awareness. What you just said there, Oliver, and what Tim said, when Tim said, like, well, if I get a cold store, am I right in thinking it just holds the keys and the assets are in the blockchain? It's like I always refer to crypto as like a coffee percolator, and it's understanding what's going on from enough different angles that you get it. Because I do believe that Warren Buffett's saying, don't invest in what you don't understand. There's a lot of sense in that. But if I truly took that viewpoint with every one of my investments, I probably wouldn't have invested in most of them. Because how do you know when you know it? You just need to know enough that you can understand the upside, understand the downside, and determine that you have asymmetric gain, meaning the potential up is greater than the potential down. And that's how I've kind of taken this view. But that means that as we're working through the process, we're still working stuff out. And I remember when the penny dropped, and I was like, so none of it's real. It's all in this etherical blockchain in the space, just like an internet website is. And all these all these hot wallets and cold wallets are just, I call them windows to put your head through to see your assets and be able to shout at it to do something. And without the window, everyone's just kind of looking from the outside in. So I think as we move through this space and that coffee percolator keeps going through, we get it deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So
yeah, before you move on, can I ask you a few just little questions about the Trezor?
Yeah, go. Well, if I can answer them, yeah.
Okay, so, and this might help other people too. So I set this up, I followed the instructions, and from what I recall of doing it, I set up it connected to Exodus. So now only when I go on my desktop Exodus does it ask for my code. So I plug this in and I only have to put in my 4 digits. And then it gives me access to send and receive. But on my phone, it never does that. So I can send and receive from Exodus on my app without using the Trezor. So do I have to set those up separately? And where the 24 seed phrase, are you talking about the seed phrase for Exodus or for the actual Trezor? I'm a little confused.
That's
And
a
I
good
may
question.
have it written down like in my I have a safe for all this somewhere.
Don't, or I thought you were going to say where you're
All locked up.
Okay, no sharing whether 24 words are saved. So I've got my thoughts of what's occurred.
Share,
Yeah, so this is my 24 words. Just one, I have one question first, Rebecca, and that is on your phone, when you look at your receiving address,
Yeah.
is it the same receiving address as the receiving address for your Trezor?
What do you mean the receiving address for my Trezor for Exodus when I've signed into Trezor?
Yeah, but when you when you open Trezor,
yeah,
you have to connect your Trezor to your laptop, and you're telling me that you put the 4 pin in your Trezor device, and then Exodus displays your assets.
Correct.
And you can send a receipt. Okay.
Yeah.
When you open your phone
Mm-hmm.
and you're viewing your assets, are they the same assets as what you see on your desktop?
So sometimes no, like there was a discrepancy in the amount the other day. It was more or less on the desktop than the phone. And it wasn't
when
that
you say
much.
Amount, do you mean dollar amount or do you mean coin amount?
Dollar amount. And I actually just thought it was because it was US and Canadian different. I thought, oh, maybe on my phone it's US and on computer it's showing me
you can always receive, anyone can receive anything at any point without any signature. If I want to send Tim some money now, I just need his address. So he'll gives me his Bitcoin address and he sends it. But in order for you to do that from your phone, I know what's occurred here. So first of all Exoduses are not related. If I had 3 devices here and I install Exodus, they're not synced. Yeah. So if I have to put my seed phrase in this one, my seed phrase in this one, and my seed phrase in this one. Okay. When I will say a statement, tell me if this is true. When you loaded Exodus on your mobile phone, it said, start a new wallet or restore a wallet, recover a wallet. Did you click that? And then you entered your 24 seed phrase into it?
I think so, yeah.
So what you've done there, remember that it's just a seed phrase. If you gave me your seed phrase now, Rebecca, I could put it on my computer. Like it's got nothing to do with the app. Yeah. So you had a seed phrase that went in your Trezor. That's fine. And you connected your Trezor to your computer and you're using Exodus as the interface to control it. But when you loaded your mobile phone and Exodus was there and it said enter a seed phrase, you entered your seed phrase, which means now Exodus on your phone has all of your keys. Exodus on your computer does not. It's connected to your Trezor, and Trezor is where you put the seed phrase, and Trezor is what has your keys. So that seed, in that instance, you are using a cold store and a desktop to manage it. But on your phone, technically speaking, you're using a hot wallet.
Right.
Because it can sign transactions.
So do I need to set up my Trezor on my phone app?
I'll tell you what I do.
Rich.
There's a bit of confusion. Like if you've not used either before, it can seem a bit confusing. But I don't know if you noticed, particularly if you're on desktop, you can notice a lot more where you can flick between what's on Exodus and what's on Trezor. So I don't know if you know.
Oh, I haven't even seen that.
Yeah. So you might have actually done it. You might have actually sent stuff to Exodus and not Trezor. I don't know, but I'm saying it's quite easy to do because, like Daniel says, you just need an address to send to, and it will send it. So the one way you can, and to make it even more confusing, it won't always send it if you then ask, go and query the address for, say, Bitcoin in your Trezor, or I'm sure it does in Exodus, but definitely in Trezor. It won't even do the same address. So it'll look like a different address as well. So because it's got a privacy feature. So the public address is different every time. It can be different every time you send it, but it doesn't have to be, right? So it's just like, ooh, all this crazy stuff. But the way to check that is you can just use the desktop Trezor interface. Just forget Exodus and just plug in your Trezor into your computer, make sure you've got the right Trezor interface, and you'll be able to see what is actually on your Trezor at that point. Yeah, using the device. Yeah,
I can
but just
that.
yeah, but just have a look as well on your, like I say, on your desktop, because I only really use it on desktop. I don't for most of my stuff. I don't have it on my phone because I don't want to be that, you know, have that liability. But on my computer, open up the app, and you can, and just there's a, I think it's in the top left, and you can flick between Exodus, you can flick between Trezor. But you still always need to use the Trezor to send, but you can receive however you want, basically.
And if you have several, like I have 4 different wallets in Exodus, so would I have to set them up individually on the Trezor?
No, they should just be there. I mean, if you've got, do you mean wallets, or do you mean current?
No, she means portfolios. That's
Portfolios.
that's an Exodus feature. It's not a Trezor feature.
Right. So I would have to transfer each one to Trezor, I guess.
No, they all exist on Trezor, but
Okay.
in Exodus can group addresses into portfolios. Think of it like folders. But
Right.
that's just, if I had 10 addresses in an Exodus, I could say, well, these 4 are my work portfolio, these 4 is my mum's portfolio, and these 2 is my dog's.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have Exodus and I just had the Trezor app, I just see 10 addresses. I don't think you can have portfolio management in Trezor. I think it's an Exodus feature.
Yeah, Exodus is just a display. It's just a display thing,
Yeah.
right? So
all of these are just displays. Every different app, but the one thing that Trezor allows is it allows for signing on a cold store. I've just done a quick Google, by the way. You cannot connect a Trezor as a signature device to a phone.
That's interesting, because when I was traveling, I knew people that they brought their Trezor and they would plug it. He plugged it into his phone, and it
was it iOS or was it Android?
It was Android. It was not iOS.
Okay, sorry, that's iOS. If
you
you actually want to connect
to
a cold
USB-C,
store,
I think so.
yeah, it connects via Bluetooth, and it can connect via cable to your phone. But I haven't gone any further on here. Doing what you're doing though is much more advanced. So I would, if you really want to use this, I would take some time to
I gotta
go through forums and double check.
Yeah.
But the first port of call I would definitely say would be just look at the raw Trezor app on your desktop, and you'll actually see what is actually on your Trezor. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
Massive typos, but there's a whole Reddit forum on. Oh, that's Trezor Exodus iOS support. So just go back one thread on that Reddit forum, and there'll be a Trezor Exodus Android forum, probably.
I am iOS, so that's the right one, probably.
Oh, there you go. Then at the minute, this is what, as of 1 year ago,
Okay.
there's no iOS app for the Exodus iOS app won't allow for Trezor external connection, and that'll probably because of an iPhone restriction.
Yeah. Okay.
But all these conversations, this whole last sort of 20 minutes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like we're all here and you will get it, and this includes me as well, and Richard. The number of times we're in our own worlds, pioneers, just stepping forward and stepping forward and stepping forward. It is complex, and every month I must say I understand why this isn't mainstream yet. It's just it not only is it a bit complicated sometimes, but it still requires people to kind of go, oh, it worked, excellent, and like press buttons and move forward things. And most people, retail can't do that. With retail, it needs to work, it needs to be understood, and it needs to happen.
It comes back to that the challenge around convenience at that point, doesn't it? And we talk about convenience in holding your money in Voyager or Celsius or on Exchange and all these different things, but we always forget what they they give you the convenience in order to have the control over what the crypto that's on those exchanges to do what they want with, just the same as way a bank holds your money and does what they want with it, as basically. And the convenience aspect of it is just, where do I store my money, and how good is this banking app that I've got that tells me how much I've spent every week? It's like, it's not what bank was designed to do, but the idea that they provide that convenience makes it easy, So, so I think that's really cool. The convenience equals lack of control is always a really thing that I always come back to all the time whenever I kind of find myself not moving my own learnings forward, basically, and put myself in a bit more of an uncomfortable position to do other stuff.
Yeah, or it might not be that convenience is less control, but it's less something. Yes, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, it's in relation to Trezor and Exodus as well. My research this week suggests that Trezor doesn't support Solana. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but what would you do in a case where you had some assets on Exodus that were supported by Trezor and some that are not? What would be a good approach?
Yeah, you can either swap wallets and get a ledger, which you probably could put it on. I've not moved in I've got not much Solana, so I haven't tried that. The other thing you could do is find a Solana-based hot wallet that works, and I'd do that. So I mean, that's another thing we talk about in the course is you can't always find a one-size-fits-all thing that's convenient. You have to get used to using hot wallets and cold wallets and whatever else in between in order to manage the crypto that you want to hold. But I can't remember. There must be a web wallet that you can hold Solana on. I'm sure there must be.
There definitely will be.
But is Exodus just as safe as those then for Solana? Because you can stake Solana on Exodus. Is it from a security point of view? Is it as good? Is Exodus as good for Solana as another web-based wallet?
No, I mean, one thing you could share. The thing is, we is stakingrewards.com. You can have a look on that, and it will tell you. But just be aware that you're still giving. It depends if you hold it in a wallet or whether you deposit it. Right?
Hang on, I'm confused. I thought Tim's question was around security, not around staking rewards. Have I misunderstood that?
Well, it is, but I'm saying, but he talked about is the stake. I might be wrong. I thought the staking better on Exodus.
No, the security. The security.
Okay, right. Okay. Yeah. It'll be down to your personal security hygiene, basically. Because if you put it on Exodus, you can close that all down. But if someone's got access to your, if you don't update your computer, or you don't update all the software, or you don't look after passwords, then it's as secure as you at that point, basically. So so I don't think anything's more secure than other. It's how you manage your own security, and that's financial sovereignty, right? It's like you're taking the money back from the bank and you're looking after yourself, right? And that's the most important thing.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to pull this up. Can people see that?
Yeah.
So we made this as part of I knew it was somewhere. This isn't the full one I was looking at, but when we're looking at security, this is from the crypto Kickstarter course we've just done. So your question there, Tim, was between the second and the third columns, hot wallets and cold wallets. So when we say is Exodus as safe as Trezor, the difference is what we're saying there is a hot wallet safer or non-safer than a cold wallet. So because a hot wallet is software based, it means you're installed on your device, which means your device is now part of the equation. And if we look down here, as we're looking at the whole point of this module is not all storage is made equal. So we're on the location part at the minute. And the next one is device, because each device is different. So for example, a Windows laptop inherently is less secure than a Mac OS. And a Mac OS is less secure than a Linux OS. That's just the way it is because of how they're built. So for the most part, if you have an up-to-date device and you've got, it's free of malware and you don't go on dodgy sites and you don't just click every button that's presented to you, then your device is probably safe. And in that case, it will majoritively be safe. But because it's on a device, it can get hacked. But it will only get hacked if your device is compromised. So it is on the one hand, which is safer, a cold wallet. but realistically, for most people, a hot wallet will be pretty safe, relatively speaking. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And this is the same whether it's Exodus, which is a piece of software, or whether it's MetaMask, which is a browser extension, or whatever it might be. So I try not to labor on those things, because like going down the whole risks and hacking and everything, and everyone's like, oh, everything's hackable, really, to a certain level. But I think for the most part, for most people, if you're serious about crypto and you're careful about stuff, I think you're fine. And if you're holding large sums or you're bothered, buy yourself a small Linux, they cost less than £100 laptop, or a small what they called Chromebook, which is a Linux-based operating system, and install your hot wallet on it, and don't use it to go on the internet. I'd like to browse. Treat it like a pretty big cold store. And if you do that, bear in mind that when it's unplugged from the internet, it's just like a cold wallet. No one can touch it because it's unplugged. And the day you need to send a bit of your Solana, turn it on, plug it in, update it if it's not been updated for a while, or periodically every month, keep it updated, use it, shut it, put it away.
Okay.
So there are things you can do.
Okay, good advice. Thank you.
Cool. So we wanted to kind of come on to, we thought it'd be really good at the end, and we're already doing it anyway, but it's this conversation around decentralization fundamentally, because I'll share my bit, but Richard's been my person for a long time, banging this drum, and I'm more than ever now receiving the dulcet tones of his drum in my ear. So I am grateful, Richard. I really am, as Ollie was for breakfast with Richard coming down going, have you moved out of Celsius yet? And I've always loved Bitcoin. I hated it for a little bit at some point. I thought it was the evil nemesis as I went down my XRP route. And then I slowly wormed my way back and realized and understood. And if there's one thing this last 6 months has taught me, was everything's been going crazy. And, you know, people are running companies and being shady, and there's lack of integrity and everything. His Bitcoin's just been in the background, just chugging away. It's like the steam train that doesn't even need power. I know it needs a lot of power, bad analogy, but you know, it's just kind of just in the background. What was that book we used to read where the train's going, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. It just keeps going. So I've really felt that more so than ever. And I love these layer ones. I love Solana, and I really like Cardano in a lot of ways, and all these other ones. But there's this real love and appreciation for something that's slow and old for crypto, and clunky and not very fast, and needs a lot of power to do proof of work. And there's more awareness now about why proof of work is so infallible. So we wanted to kind of pick it back up again and finish the call on that, because I think as we're talking about Exodus and Trezors and ledgers, which are all decentralized forms of storage, Bitcoin is the oldest decentralized distributed form of tokens, is this reawakening and reawareness of why these are different. Because I think I get why the crypto purists at the base layer are like, if it isn't decentralized, I'm not interested. And I used to think that was a very short-minded, short-sighted view of things. And I'm re-questioning that now more and more. So Rich is the man for this. So I'd love, and like I said, he's been harping on about this for me for a long time. So I've definitely taken more of it. So I'd love your thoughts and your views on it, Richard, and then just open it up for people for the last 20 minutes and get other people's views around decentralization and distributed ledgers, and do we even know what they are?
So sorry, I missed break up a little bit. So what's the question then? Is like what?
What's the question? If I was to summarize it as a question, it would be, why do you actually care more about decentralization? It's a loaded statement question.
Okay.
I'm assuming you care about decentralization and distributed tech more so than centralized. Why do you? And do you think over the last period of time you have found a greater appreciation for it? If so, why? And why should other people care?
Okay. So I think you summed up at the start. Really, it's like, you know, we view the potential of, we'll just say, crypto at the moment to create this new vanguard of sovereignty for individuals from a financial point of view. Where Rebecca said you can take it into, you know, different parts of the world, to the unbanked, and provide, you know, a different kind of monetary, you know, a different kind of money to them, where it's potentially free from centralized control and all the rest of it. So I think fundamentally, that's what it's about for me. It's that it requires an understanding of what is currently wrong with the current system, and then once you understand that, you can really understand and pick apart which of these cryptos really offers that potential. So that's why I'm in crypto. Now, I speculate on things, and I like to make money and make income and all these different things. But fundamentally, that's why I'm on this call, because I believe that the more people we tell about this and the more people will understand it, it offers a sidestep to what the current system is. So that's why it's important to me. And then when you kind of, the longer you've been in crypto, and we were talking about this before, what was the phrase going to be? Nothing's changed now during this crash. One of us was going to say it. You know, what's fundamentally changed? Some of the industry has fallen apart. You know, there's no two ways about it. And like I say, it's shaking the tree, and the bad actors are falling through. But the only one thing that really hasn't changed throughout all this is Bitcoin. Is the only one that hasn't changed, because no one can change it. No one controls it. And it's the only way that you can own your own money, spend your own money, and not have it manipulate. Well, you can still manipulate the price of it, I guess, in dollar terms. But it's the only one that people, if you look after it in the right way, in the way that we're talking about, is the only one that someone can't take it away from you. Yeah. Make it difficult, but they can't take it away from you. So that's what it means to me, I think. And during this cycle where people have lost billions, you know, billions have been wiped off the face of Celsius, of Voyager, of 3AC, the VC firm, and just decimated some of these coins. And the crypto market was 2 trillion. We can argue why it was 2 trillion in dollar terms, and now it's half that. So much money is lost, and I don't think we're done yet, you know, in terms of that. But you know, Bitcoin is the only one that kind of that rises above it all, really. And I think during this next 6 months to 2 years, I think we're going to see people, as they have seen all this chaos happen around and all this value disappear out of the system, and they've gone back to Bitcoin and looked at it and gone, Bitcoin is like the old granddaddy of crypto. But guess what? It does what it says it's going to do, and it just keeps going, you know. So I hope there's more realization that people kind of move into that space where, you know, the longer you're in crypto and you see all the exciting projects and all the things you want to invest in and speculate in, it's like, actually the only thing that really represents crypto, with, you know, Bitcoin was the first one. All the other cryptos were invented to try and do stuff that Bitcoin can't do, right? That's why Ethereum started, and then everyone starts creating stuff that Ethereum can't do, and then someone creates something that Cardano can't do, and it's like, what's better, you know? Why do they exist? And it's like, they've all got a reason, but it's like the .com, you know, it's like it's not like the .com era. They're all trying to do different things, and some of them will have a future and some of them won't. But Bitcoin is just peer-to-peer cash and a speculative store of value, you know. So I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No, I think it does. I was letting you roll with it. I think at the end there, what I kind of want to summarize that with is like, boring is good. I've said that to some of my clients for a long time now. It's like, if something feels really exciting and it involves money, I said, it's probably gambling. You can disguise it all you want, but that excitement that we feel is probably not that far similar. And I think the thing about Bitcoin is it just chugs away in the background. And the more you start to understand about its power usage, yes, it uses a lot of power to do what it does, but I had this big hang up when everyone's like, oh, it uses the power of Venezuela. And I was like, okay, when was the last time you judged the power uses of an industry by a country size? The answer is never. Nobody talks about how much power gold uses by referencing the size of a country. So I think that the more we can understand it, the more that we can work out that there is a perception that's played around Bitcoin. Without knowing the fundamentals of it, and that's what's got me back to basics recently, really back to basics. It's allowed me to have a safer sense of security with it, because I'm not bothered about necessarily with certain aspects making money on it. Of course, all coins and speculation, everything. I want something that's safe, and I don't want to use a bank. And it's my answer with a lot of people. I'm like, I don't trust banks anymore. I don't believe in them. I don't like what they do with their money. I don't like the fact that they're never held accountable. And you also only have a certain amount that's actually even guaranteed. So at the minute, Bitcoin is the safest space I can put it, so long as, again, it's not, in my case, some of it was in Celsius against the loan. Now it's in a cold store, everything. So it's like just seeing that bigger view. Rebecca, you said you've got a few discussion points you wanted to pull into this mix. Do you want to share? I know you also wanted to listen to us, but we do open it up for everybody as well. We're not a community; it's just me and Richard chatting.
Oh, off the top of my head, I mean, I have so many questions. I have questions.
Sorry, I realized that was a DM. Was that about what we were talking about here around decentralization, or was that on something else? I do apologize.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I'm enjoying the conversation. Yeah, I mean, just learning more by listening to what other people are doing. And I actually really, just a totally off-topic comment. For me, it's really nice to be in a room of people who are in this space, because I'm surrounded. Like I have one group of friends who are, and then like my family, and sometimes the closest people to you, your friends, like my father, who's been my like financial advisor my whole life, is totally conservative, loves banks, watches news, and we're so on opposite pages. Like I love him, and so it's just really nice to have this environment and a community of people who are the pioneers, who are going through this together. And I also love the variety of ages. And I often feel like I'm, in a minority as a woman, learning about the financial sector and the changing financial structure and how the systems are failing us in the banks. But I'm super happy as a woman to be here, because there's a lot of other women who need the knowledge that I'm learning now. And so I appreciate all of your input and support as men, because really it all just gets paid forward to all the other, women and men who come to me for like, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So,
and we need more conversations on that. I think there's still a lot of
answers. So we have to work things out together. I feel very much like it's we're all sitting at a table and we're like, okay, brainstorm this, brainstorm that. What did you get? What did you get? What did you get? And I love working like that. So I think it's awesome.
Remind me as well, Rebecca, just DM me afterwards. I've got about 3 or 4 other women who run communities, crypto communities, most of them online, but in spaces, but some of them are physical as well, because you might find some really good connections in there, especially if you're wishing to connect more with other women in this space as well, who are doing a lot of similar work. So just remind me and DM me on that. Ollie, you've got your hand up there. You want to share?
Yeah.
Or ask?
I just thought I'd kind of bring it back a little bit to the decentralization question, or kind of point around it. I think there's clearly a need in my mind for decentralization to be something that can be created in addition to Bitcoin. And it's really interesting to kind of understand how that can be possible. Firstly, when you have a creator with Bitcoin, having a creator, but it being somebody that is untouchable and unknown, Also the fact that it's been set up with proof of work and has so much traction behind it. Really, every day that goes by, it's been used. The way that the value curve was created to make Bitcoin worthwhile using has allowed it to be decentralized. But there does seem, in my mind, to be other spaces within crypto where decentralization is going to be a really useful thing to have. An easy one to say is stablecoin. Finding a solution for stablecoin that can be a decentralized model. I think it's hard to kind of really understand how that can exist and be created. And I mean, I think there's concepts and ideas that one could use to kind of somehow build it onto Ethereum and onto Bitcoin. I don't know how that would be possible, but the concept of actually creating a destabilized stablecoin that, you know,
Decentralized.
really decentralized, you know, really kind of is something that seems to be needed and to exist. But I mean, obviously with everything going on with UST, people believed it was decentralized, but it clearly wasn't. And then once you actually start having people that have huge amounts of money in there, being able to kind of control it through just, you know, the clout whale kind of moves, I think that there's a real value in it existing in that space. And I think there's many other spaces where a kind of decentralized model would also have a value and a use, but it's hard to understand how that can happen, especially when you see USD C falling over in the way that it did, when so many people thought that it was something that would.
You mean UST?
Sorry, yeah, UST.
Yeah, I know there's loads of them. I fully hear what you're saying. I think as soon as someone said to me once, well, with everything that's happened with Luna and UST, and it just shows that a decentralized stablecoin can't work. And I said, that's not what it shows. I said, it shows that that's not how we do it. And there could be 2, 3, 4, 5 more iterations. They might all fail. I said, but at some point, a solution will come about, and there'll be some way of maintaining integrity. And before the call, Richard was sharing some pieces of information I didn't know, which is that, Richard, jump in here, but what do you say, that the Luna or Doc One or the main team at Luna somehow changed something so that they had more rights to vote on something, and they passed something in their favor that basically didn't work for the benefit of the community, and that was part of the process of this whole unpegging. Is that a close enough summary? Yeah,
near enough. Yeah, I think there was some hidden wallets that basically owned enough stake, and so it's proof of stake. So although it was decentralized, you know, it was still Luna was still a proof of stake coin, basically, but it was pegged to, you know, UST. So it burnt, and it was like algorithmic. So it was a decentralized stable coin, but it was like algorithmic at the same time. And it basically, if you own enough of it, then you've got enough consensus to make the community vote on what to happen. Then it's not decentralized, because you just need enough of the coin in order to influence the voting mechanism to make something happen. So my understanding is that that's what happened. Yeah.
This is a lot of purists. I'll come to you in a second, Rod, as well. This is a lot of purist point of view with proof of stake, is that yes, proof of stake, it can be faster and less resource heavy and lots of really good things. But someone said it's likening to basically saying he who holds the most has the most power. Anyway, that's basically what we have now. Proof of stake is the blockchain equivalent of our current forms of institutions and institutional power and governance. And the reason proof of work is still going today and has never been exploited, apart from a 51% attack, which has only happened on poorly set up systems, let's say, or tokens that have forked Bitcoin, they're still going. And they're still going because the ability to to create problems is just, it's not even existent because there is no need to have a consensus. So I do think that another stable coin will come around. I know that Coin Bureau has been talking about a new form of one, and I haven't even looked at it yet. But I think at some point we'll nail it. And a guy I met on a boat party, a Bitcoin boat party once, a really smart guy, and he talked about this decentralized trifecta, and he was talking about Thorchain, Rune, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He went, you haven't heard of the trifecta? And I was like, no. And he went, sit down, and he just battered me in the nicest of ways, in a better word than that. Covered me in cherries and ice cream for an hour about decentralization and this trifecta, which is a store of value, Bitcoin, at the time, UST, which is the decentralized stablecoin, and Thorchain's DEX, which was the first ever multi-chain decentralized exchange. And I said, oh, we already have decentralized exchanges that do multi-chain. And he said, no, we don't. We have ones that are EVM compatible. EVM compatible are copies of Ethereum's chain. So Ethereum, BSC, Avalanche. That's why you can use all of those in MetaMask, because MetaMask is an EVM ERC20 based browser. So there's all these chains that we think are different, but they're not. The base of them, they're the same code. So we don't have a decentralized multi-cross-chain exchange. And he said, as soon as we have that, which is now released, or I was trying to find its time, it's released like around now. He was saying like August time this year. As soon as we have a decentralized exchange, a decentralized stablecoin, and a decentralized store of value, he said there'll be no need to use a bank. You'll be able to swap between any token you want in a decentralized way with no record, no transaction record, nothing. And by the end of the covering in cream and cherries, I got it. And I left that. That was the one thing I took from that boat party. And I was like, wow, that really landed on me to understand how he said the reason a decentralized world can't fully take off right now is because it's not workable. It is kind of workable with lots of weird workarounds. And he said, as soon as we have these three parts in play, he went, you can move all you want. Because once you're in UST, you can easily take that somewhere else, change it for any other stable coin. If you need to move into fiat, but all of assets can exist in this world over here and just keep moving. So I do think another replacement will come for UST. And I think the best thing we can take from UST is a learning curve. Why didn't it work? And it didn't work because, once again, humans exploited something for their own good. And that has happened time and time again. It's not the first time it's going to happen. So whatever comes about second time, we'll probably do damn hard to make sure that cannot occur. Rod, we're 23 minutes past. We do try and finish promptly. This might be the last input, but let's have a see.
Ben, I'll make it quick. I just want you to please correct my thinking. To me, stablecoins are a transition step, simply to ease the access between fiat and crypto. And once crypto takes over as the dominant form of store of wealth and financial transactions, call it what you like, then there won't really be any need for stablecoins. Where is that wrong thinking?
Oh, there's a few views on that, Richard.
I missed a bit because just repeat the last bit. So you said it was a transition between fiat and crypto.
Sure,
yeah.
I see a stablecoin as a mechanism to ease the transition into between the two domains. One is the fiat economy, and two is crypto. And once crypto becomes dominant, and you can actually do day-to-day transactions in crypto, who needs a stablecoin?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the problem we've got at the moment is that the entire crypto market, and Bitcoin included, is valued in US dollars or pounds or whatever you want to value it in. Yeah, so it's got that correlation, and it kind of brings it on to another point, which is like, and you can argue which ones, which cryptos will be able to be transacted. You know, I know like Shopify accepts, I think, Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin. It accepts all these different cryptocurrencies, but I think you need to have some sort of value to value it against. Now, Bitcoin, and you could argue, is basically if we agree your house is worth X and you want to sell your house to me, and we can say it's worth 10 Bitcoin or whatever, then we can agree that that's how we want to transact. And that's why Bitcoin was essentially created. So we can do peer-to-peer transactions. There's no middleman. We can decide the actual and derive the actual value. But the problem is at the moment is that you know, we're still valuing that in pounds, really, because we live in that world. And so you get into a big conversation, which is about what's going to be reserve currency, right? And if you posit the fact, like potentially, however, in whatever time period, Bitcoin could become a reserve currency, then it'll be, at that point, it'll probably be, you'll be measuring stuff in Satoshis, which is the decimalization of a Bitcoin, right? So this glass is worth however many Satoshis, okay? And at that point, you can then get back to the kind of Forex kind of place where we are now, where X amount of Satoshis is now worth so many XRP or whatever. Yeah. And so that'll be an interesting point, but you still need something as a reserve currency in which to measure everything against. And you say, why do we need a reserve currency? It's only because we're in this mindset that we need to measure it against something. You know, you still need to sort of, it's just why did they have cacao beans in Mexico? Because so many cacao beans had a value to the individual that you could exchange it for something, a chicken for it.
I think Rod might be getting caught up on the word currency. I don't know. Like in a world where Bitcoin is transacted and held as a store of value, like remove the word currency, then we need a reserve benchmark. We need something within which we can determine value, because in a trading world, I could say I have a cup and this, and we can both agree, I need this, you need this, we swap. But when we start to store assets, we store the assets because, you know, I can't keep broccoli all year round and sell it. So I need something that I can sell the broccoli when I have lots of it, store the thing I get, which might be cacao beans. And then at some point in the future, I want to redeem the cacao beans for the flask when I need it. And so that thing is what we're saying, is what Rich is saying, is the reserve currency. Like, forget whether it's fiat or not. We need something which the whole world can determine the value of it and swap it for those things. And that's what I think that I do think that will always be there, because without it, how can you value what you're storing?
Yeah, I think it comes back to, I just want to round it back to what Ollie was saying, as well as how do you transition into this kind of world. And I think the slight problem I see at the moment is that Bitcoin was designed as peer-to-peer cash, yeah, and to do all these different things and to be increasing value over time, but it's becoming more and more a store of value, which I don't fully know if it was intended to be that in the way that Satoshi originally meant it, basically. So you kind of got this point where people want to hold Bitcoin because they see the value going up and they want to store their value in it because they don't want to put it in assets that are outside of crypto, in the bank and gold and all these things that they disagree with. So I think you kind of need to move to a point where you either use Bitcoin as cash or you use it as the reserve currency in which to I won't use that, you know, the thing that the store of value that basically dictates the price of everything else, if you see what I mean, how you price everything else. And I think I don't know when that time's gonna be, but I think it goes back to the point is that while everything has crashed, while the whole market has crashed, and people re-see the value of Bitcoin, I think you're going to see the ecosystem of Bitcoin develop because of that, and because more wealthy people want to hold it, and as you get the network effect of more and more people holding Bitcoin, hopefully, then you're going to see the ecosystem develop where it moves more and more to that. I also think that at some point, with all the macro world events that's going on at the moment, it's going to be a splintering. And what we're seeing right now is of the current system, basically, and this new ecosystem emerging where, well, we want to spend our Bitcoin and we want to exchange it, and this is how we're going to do it. and it's like not. It's completely away from the banking system as it is. So it's a long way, and the banks and everyone else. If you believe any of the, some people say that the Luna and Terra farce was basically, it was some sort of attack on a decentralized stable. I don't know whether that's true or not, but without a doubt, governments and banks do not want to see the mass take up of decentralized forms of payment or anything, basically. So there's going to be a big battle, and I don't want to, it doesn't make us feel like we're all these warriors here, but maybe kind of are. We're at the vanguard of something new here. We can choose.
Can we call it a metaphorical battle? I'm trying to, at the minute, not bring in an actual battle.
Yeah, we don't want it, but I think that the way that everything, the adoption of something comes out of crisis, doesn't it? And I think we're facing one at the moment. So, and that's how it's going to happen. I don't know when it will be then. So, but
I think this isn't the time for now, but that is the fourth turning which we're in, which is titled Crisis. But we're going to leave it there because, Richard, that was a brilliant wrap up. All of these conversations, literally, I sometimes feel we was going forever. I have an FLT day one day. But they're all, we actually are. Do we tell people?
Yeah, can you?
Well, it means it's real. If we tell people, that means it's happening.
It's happening quite soon as well. So
we better tell people. So we've decided, because randomly we're all in the UK at the same time, and I say all because Ollie, who's in the bottom, Ollie, wave your hands. Are you in your front room? Yeah. So that room he's sat in right there, that window, was where the first ever FLT call ever happened, and it was me and him. And he just wanted to know about crypto, and I was like, well, I'll just talk to you for you. And he said, okay, and we just chatted for like 2 hours, for ages. And because of that, he wanted to. He messaged me a few weeks later, can we just chat a bit more? But I was away, and I said, well, let's do it online. And then at some point we said, well, let's invite some people, and it all started right there. And so randomly, he's back in the UK now, Richard's back, and I'm back. And so we decided to have a physical meetup. We're having the first ever official FLT community get-together gathering. I'm sure it will involve some food, some drinks, and a really good old British chinwag. It will be in England, so I do apologize for, I know this is mainly people in England anyway, but if you're not in England, it's a pretty large flight. It'll probably be somewhere in the northwest-ish. And so everyone's welcome. So that is our first ever UK FLT community meetup. It would be wonderful if people could be there. We will, of course, also be broadcasting it, and anyone's connecting from anywhere else. So maybe wherever you are in the world, you can have your glass of wine or your chai latte or whatever it is that is your tipple of choice in 2022 at this time. But until then, all these conversations are wonderful and brilliant. The biggest thing that we love the most is a community, because without a community, what are we really, except a bunch of human beings bumbling around the world, bumping into one another? And whilst all this crypto, blockchain, distribution, decentralized buzzwords are all tech and very big and complicated, I think somehow within all this crypto world, it's brought together people in a really diametrically opposed point of view, and I love that. I love that, because prior to now, all tech's done really is fractionalize us all in some way. So I think that's really phenomenal. So as a community, I love it. I hope you have enjoyed this call. It is a pleasure to get back onto these FLT calls. Huge thanks to Ollie as well for first ever instigating a sort of conversation. We will be back in 2 weeks, Rich.
Yeah. I might actually do a live one, dude. So
is that me and you?
Well, yeah, no, actually the live one. I think that's the one. So we better get our skates on.
No, the next one's not the live one. Next
Anyway,
one's in 2 weeks. It's online,
yeah.
And then it's a 3 weeks, and it'll be physical. 1,
I'm getting
2,
I think it's
3.
Yeah,
August the 30th is the FLT live meetup.
Yeah, I thought it was all. Yeah, I get mixed up.
August the
Sorry.
30th. All right, cool. Everyone's enjoyed themselves. You've got any questions? We're in the FLT community. Just kind of put your questions in there. I know a few of you did. I've said just post them in there. We'll be picking these up again. If you know anyone that is interested in crypto or wants help or support, we are a safe space. It's one of the biggest things that we promote. And that is important if you've been in crypto long enough. Safe spaces are super important, and we're a non-techie space, so you can ask your questions without someone going Google it, or you should know this by now. All questions are welcome, all people are welcome, and that is enough of that. So wherever you are, have a really good night. It's great to be doing these again. We love you all. Take care, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.